What's really moving in the field is that life itself is simple, right? The mind could be like, whoa, doesn't feel that way. But the mind makes it complicated. The mind and the structures of thought and beliefs and concepts make it complicated. And it's like it makes a tangle that it needs to constantly be thinking about how it can solve and get itself out of, and even free itself from, right? Even the uh, the journey, the dash for freedom, enlightenment, awakening, right, is can be married to this sense that life is challenging and I've got to find a way to free myself, to see through this, to get out of this complexity, that which is hard, that which is challenging, that which is intense. And so when we say life is simple, that itself can feel kind of challenging to the mind's belief that life is hard. And for sure, the life that the mind creates that involves the limiting beliefs and the concepts and the protections and the conditions, the experience of that is hard. It is challenging. There's no question of that, right? And yet, life itself is simple. And so in a way, this unfolding, whatever we call it, whatever we feel like we are journeying towards or seeking for or opening to or discovering, it's really simplicity. It's really the simplicity of life, the simplicity of one thing happening, the simplicity of one power, of one essence, one substance. And in a way, life is like a distillation. Sometimes we might hear that spoken of, filtering out what is real and what is not real. Seeing through the beliefs that we hold as real and create identity that who I am is this limited mind-body person. And opening to the presence, the stillness, the silence, the being that is aware of all the seeming moving parts, but is never touched or disturbed by those moving parts, by the complexity. And if we discover the simplicity that is always here, even in the face of seeming complexity, then that is the key to the freedom that we are longing for and seeking for. It's not in finding a solution to the problem, because we could say that there is no problem, or maybe we could say the only problem is the identification and the belief in separation and division, or that there's more than one thing happening, more than one power. So the return to the one through presence, through being, is a return to simplicity. And curiously, a return to simplicity is a return to wholeness. There can be, created by the mind, so much complexity even around this seeming journey or path to realization of what is true. And the mind itself adds so many layers of, let's say, complexity, because in that frequency of belief, that belief can be entangled with, I'll never get it, I'm unworthy, I'm undeserving, or it's hard, or enlightenment is only for the divine ones, the special ones. Awakening is something hard, like you have to have it bestowed upon you by grace. You can't get it, you can't achieve it. So that whole complex can itself be a frequency that makes the journey itself hard, right? And let's say that the journey itself isn't hard, but for sure the frequencies that we are carrying and that we are unconsciously committed to can be creating a journey that seems hard. And of course, the conditioned habit to identify with the mind's beliefs is a deeply entrenched, tangled one. That's for sure, right? And it's part of this life path to untangle from the mind being the master and believing that the mind knows the truth and the way and the solution, and actually opening to what is underneath the seeming complexity so that we have access to the light that can illuminate and the frequency field that we call the love, the openness that can include everything unconditionally, that is actually the untangling from the collective, actually even the untangling from identification with being a divided self, opening to the field of one wholeness that then curiously up levels the personal experience and also recalibrates the collective consciousness because it is one. So whatever we open to and recalibrate in our unique lived experience directly as consciousness, whatever we simplify supports the same simplicity in the collective consciousness. Because the collective consciousness is a fear-based program that is all about the me, seeking for the me, trying to solve the problem of me. So trying to, like, let's say, living in opposition to everybody else, really, right? Living in opposition and only looking out for me. And yet trying to belong at the level of the tribal consciousness that will have me fit in, but like an internal system that's really actually just looking out for me, that I get what I need. Maybe like my family is included in that, that we have what we need, that we're safe. And yet any degree of that frequency of fear or division will always feel like a problem in the system, right? It will always feel like something is wrong or something is off because we're not functioning on the fullness of the consciousness and the intelligence that we are. And in our life, we could say that everyone is longing to be functioning in that fullness. And we could say, know the love that you are. Be fully expressed. Be wide open. Feel free. Be free. And yet everybody is longing for that. And even in seeming ignorance is moving towards that, even if that dance is happening through fear and protection and imbalance of power. But when we stop trying to fix the me and we realize that the only solution that will bring us to wholeness and freedom is opening out of the whole field of complexity into the simplicity, that itself recalibrates the whole field. And the glory is that it's already here and you already are. And the conundrum is, Well, how do I live this? Right? And we live this by living it, right? Realizing that every moment of living it is a moment of evolutionary celebration and wonder. And that we're never doing something wrong, so that we shift our perspective of seeing to be that we're looking to achieve something and get to a goal that life is constantly getting in the way of, or creating obscurations, constant arisings of getting it wrong, of going off track, of sabotage, of challenging things happening, of distractions. And we realize that life itself is the way, that when we can see through what we want to resist and oppose and make wrong in the moment, here now, which we could say in the play of time and space in every moment, that we continue to purify the lived experience of the moment, to untangle from the collective fear and belief in limitation, separation, division. And we open to the presence that is our true nature already, and we relax, and we soften, and we be here, and we rest. And then from here we look upon what is playing as a frequency resonance that can illuminate and include and welcome the seeming discordant frequencies that allow a softening and a settling, and relax that instinct to solve and fix the apparent problem. And we realize that the solution is like a reconciliation of the seeming parts. Oh yeah, right? Oh yeah, right? It's familiar what the words are pointing to. It's known already. The intelligence that we are already knows this. And yet we are in the process of embodying what we already know. And life is the means for that embodiment to happen. We could say life is the means to simplify what we think is happening to what is actually happening. And this is really important, that we stay profoundly connected here now to what is actually true, what is actually happening, and not what the mind is interpreting and believing is happening. Because the mind is in filters. So we could say we stick to the fact, the truth, what is actually true in this moment. Not the mind's interpretation, the mind's weaving of a story. Because then we have the capacity to be in what is true, but to then see, wow, the mind is making a whole story about what is happening. And in a way, just to illuminate that brings a relaxation and saves a whole lot of wasted time trying to fix things that don't actually exist in reality. Boom, there it is, right? That we can be spending a whole lot of time trying to fix things that don't actually exist in reality. That we're trying to fix the mind instead of realizing that there's a power that is more profound, simple and true than the mind. So we rest and we relax and we remember this simple presence that is always here, underlying the moving, changing elements. And we can see as awareness the mind, the thoughts coming and going. We can feel and experience the energy in the nervous system that waxes and wanes, gets triggered and charged, and softens and relaxes. It's coming and going. We can watch the whole play of the world, the thoughts, the feelings, the sensations. And we can rest in the simplicity, just watching. We return to the presence that is underlying the whole play of life. And we remember at a frequency vibrational level, this presence is real. This presence, this awareness, this felt sense of being that doesn't move and change is real. This is true. And as we soak here, infuse here in what is real and true, the intelligence of life itself, the intelligence that we are, does the work. Reorganizes, reorients, recalibrates, and allows the patterns of belief, the concepts, the ideas, and the entanglements to soften and merge into a resonant remembrance that then shifts the frequency of our lived experience out of one of shame and guilt and doubt and fear to one of courage and willingness and openness and inner strength, touching the joy and the delight and the awe and the wonder of the miracle that this life is. And of course, in any moment, the mind is very ready to jump in and say, yeah, that's all very well, but what about? And it's just to then turn the awareness to the what about. Because the mind wants to know how, and the mind wants what it wants now. We could say the mind wants safety, and it doesn't want to feel what it doesn't want to feel. But when we come to realize that the feeling field itself is the means to actually integrate the lived experience, that we integrate the lived experience by feeling, and that will sometimes feel like feeling what I don't want to feel, because when the feeling comes, the mind associates and makes a story about me that I don't like or is uncomfortable or makes me feel triggered or charged or like I'm doing something wrong or scared or sad or hurt or whatever it is. That if I make this moment mean something about me, then I don't want to feel that. But if we can see that that is just the mind and the filters that are attached to past and memory, making an association in time and space like a cause and effect relationship. And what if we can actually allow ourselves to feel, and that feeling itself is presence with a little energy, right? Presence is welcoming the field with all of its energies. Presence is like an alive field of all of the flows of intelligence that are all allowed to be here all at the same time. The ones that we might recognize that feel comfortable, and the ones that might not feel so comfortable. But when we rest, presence allows everything to be here, just naturally. Presence is present to everything that is here with no resistance, a natural welcome, a natural inclusivity. And when we can allow our nervous system to regulate in presence, the unwinding, the releasing, the transmutation, reorganizes. We could say it even collapses our thought patterns. It clears the filters of obscuration. And it invites a clear seeing to be our direct experience. And it shifts our perception of what is actually real from what we are believing is real. So just noticing what is happening now as we rest, as we be here, and we just deepen into the naturalness and the simplicity of just being. And in the resting, this natural relaxation, an ability to see, like more wide open space to look upon the things that might be seemingly bothering us, an ability to receive the feeling field that we might register as uncomfortable or charged. And if there is any kind of intensity to the feeling field, we can breathe with it. We can direct the breath to the energies that feel more enlivened. As we direct the breath, we bring light, illumination, and coherence. It's like we bring the intelligence to the places that we can feel and sense there is some kind of tangle. Sometimes that's a noticing of tension in the body. Sometimes it's a sense of that trigger or charge or aliveness in the nervous system. Sometimes it might be the underlying anxiety buzz that just doesn't seem to ever disappear. But we rest and we realize that we can actually be with it all, can breathe with it, can kind of harmonize with it as energy. We harmonize with the energy. We're not trying to change anything, and we're not opposing anything. So it's like the frequency of presence is a natural welcome. And then even if we notice, well, I'm actually resisting, and there's a sense of contraction or a sense of like, no, we welcome that. Whatever is here, whatever we find, we just breathe with it and we allow it. We allow emotionality to flush through. We allow the energy to be here as it is. And when it's truly welcomed, there's a softening, as if everything is wanting to flow towards the ocean, right? It's like all of life is a river. And when we stop blocking it, damming it, when we stop putting up barriers, that flow can actually move to the ocean. And so in a way, our nervous system, our consciousness is like a reorganizing of the seeming parts and fragments to allow a flow of life. Because so too, the flow of life is the flow of intelligence. And that flow of intelligence is the flow of our knowing, of the heart's knowing. We could say it's the dynamism in the silence. It's the self-referencing knowing that knows only itself, knows only the one, and is a consciousness that is unified as one essence, that is flowing as life, and in that flow, gathering the pieces and parts of itself that seem to be disparate in our lived experience, and reorganizing our perception to directly experience coherence. When we directly experience coherence, we feel the freedom and the awake field as our true nature. We recognize that this is the truth of who I am, of what this life is. Right? So just resting and receiving. Mm. So now when we say life is simple, maybe we are able to cognize more of that simplicity, directly experience that this moment is simple. Just being here and just allowing the reorganizing of the experience to the one field of coherence, of awareness. To directly experience and ground here in an autonomous knowing that is the connection to the source intelligence, the connection to yourself as presence. Start to directly experience the simplicity and peace of just being here. And even if discordance arises in the field, just to look upon it, receive it, and allow the feeling sense, the aliveness of the energy to just be here. Let it do its thing. Be aware and present with it. Activating the knowing of the being that you are. Activating the intelligence to cognize itself, to know itself in the frequencies of presence, bringing online the light that illuminates